even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Social Studies with Ms. Shin. You just got done listening to a small clip of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. Today, we are going to learn a lot more about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Let's go over our learning intentions. Today, we are learning to evaluate the significance of people and events that have shaped our communities so that we can analyze the experiences of Martin Luther King Jr. We will be successful when we can understand the historical and cultural contributions Martin Luther King Jr. has made to our society. All right, friends, we are going to watch a video that is going to tell us a lot about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. While you are watching the video, I want you to listen to some important places in Martin Luther King Jr.'s life. Ready? Here we go.
Dr. King, a leader and a hero. Do you recognize this man? People all over the world know his face. They know his name. Now you will too. This is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and he was an American hero. Dr. King was born in Atlanta, Georgia on January 15th, 1929. That was more than 90 years ago. Here's a picture of Martin when he was 6 years old. He loved riding his bike, playing baseball, and eating ice cream. Martin's best friend was a boy who lived nearby, but that changed one day when his friend told him they couldn't play together anymore. His friend was white, and Martin was black. His friend's father didn't want his son playing with a black child. This made Martin sad and angry. He didn't understand why he couldn't play with his friend. During that time, there were laws in parts of our country that kept white people and black people apart. Keeping people apart like this is called segregation. The law said that black people and white people had to go to different schools, parks, and restaurants. The schools and parks for black people were often old and run down. The schools and parks for white people had newer books and better playgrounds. In some states, black and white people were not allowed to use the same water fountains and bathrooms. Buses were segregated too. When Martin was all grown up, the laws hadn't changed. He and many other people knew these laws were unfair, and the laws made him very angry. But he was a peaceful man. He did not want to use violence to change the laws. So what did he do? Dr. King used his words. He wrote letters, newspaper articles, and even books. He wanted to persuade people to end segregation. He organized marches. He led big groups of people as they walked through streets. They all thought the laws were wrong. Other people saw these marches and began to ask themselves, are these laws really fair? Dr. King also gave speeches. He spoke in front of thousands of people. In 1963, Dr. King gave his most famous speech. at a big march in Washington, D.C. He talked about his dreams for the future. He said he believed that someday the world would be a better place.
My four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Dr. King's words made people feel hopeful. When he spoke, the crowd cheered and clapped. Some people cried and hugged each other. They also believed the time had come for things to change. His dream helped other people dare to dream too. There were still some people who didn't want the laws to change. They were angry with Dr. King for trying to change them. They tried to hurt him and his family. That was scary. But Dr. King was brave. He didn't let those people stop him. He kept working. He knew he was doing what was right. Dr. King was a great leader. He inspired many people. He made them feel brave and strong. He made them believe that together they could make a change. It can be hard for one person to change the world on his or her own. But when thousands of people work together, they can make a big difference. And they did. It took a long time, but the laws of segregation did finally change. Dr. King's leadership and hard work helped make the world a better place. Dr. King is no longer with us. Still, people remember him and continue his good work. We celebrate him every year in January on his birthday. On this day, we take time to think about his life and what he did for our country. But you can celebrate him every day. You can spread his message of love, peace, and fairness by treating others with kindness and respect.
Okay, friends. So while you were listening to that video, I want, well, now that we have watched the video, I want us to think about three questions. The first question: what did Dr. King believe? What do you think that he believed? Okay. Now I want you to think about, how did Dr. King share his beliefs? How did he share his beliefs? And the final question I want you to think about is, how did Dr. King help change the world? Okay, friends, at the beginning of the video, I asked you to listen and to hear some important places in Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s life. Did you remember that? Okay, so here we are in Kansas. And in the video, I heard two very important places, or two places that were probably very important to Dr. Martin Luther King. The first place I heard was Atlanta, Georgia. That is where Dr. King was born. The second place I heard was Washington, D.C. That is where Dr. King delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech. I imagine that both those places were really important to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I want to take a closer look at where he was born, in Atlanta, Georgia. So we have been talking about different type of communities. Do you remember those different types of communities? That's right, rural, suburban, and urban communities. So if you remember, rural communities were communities with lots of farmlands, houses were far apart. Does Atlanta, Georgia look like a rural community? No, definitely doesn't. What about a suburban community? Do you remember that suburban communities had lots of houses and big yards to play, schools and small shops? Does Atlanta, Georgia look like a sorry, a suburban community? No, Atlanta, Georgia does not look like a suburban community. I do not see lots of houses and big yards and small shops and no, I don't see those things. So let's think about an urban community. An urban community is a place with lots of tall buildings, lots of traffic, lots of people. Does Atlanta, Georgia look like an urban community? Yes. Looking at the pictures, I see lots of big buildings, lots of traffic and people. Atlanta, Georgia is definitely an urban community. Okay, friends, so today we're learning to evaluate the significance of people and events that have shaped our communities, and we learned about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. specifically so that we can analyze the experiences of Martin Luther King Jr. We will be successful when we can understand the historical and cultural contributions that Martin Luther King Jr. has made to our society. So, friends, in today's assignment, the very first thing I want you to do is answer the question: was Martin Luther King Jr. born in a rural, urban, or suburban community? You're going to use your text tool. Then you're going to use your text tool to write down answers to those questions that I had you think about during our lesson. What did Dr. King believe? How did he share his beliefs? And how did he change the world? All right, friends. Thanks for doing social studies with me today, and I will see you all next time. Bye.